Andre Derain is similar to Matisse, but uses hue to indicate light and shadow, to increase luminosity, and elicit emotional response from the viewer. Now, he's studied Gauguin's tropical works very seriously, and he's going to create the piece, The Dance. So, when we look at it, the first question that comes to mind is what makes it fauve? And it's really the use of color. I mean, you could imagine that these elements are colored based on the expressive nature of color. For example, a gold foot, an orange hand, or a woman whose bottom half is green and gold. So we can imagine that there's some kind of emotion coming in here. We'll notice that the figures are flattened. In this case, color delineates space, very similar to what we saw from Gauguin. We see sketchy and simplified forms. And it really does show that close study of Gauguin in terms of the setting. We have primitive people. So why do we have primitive people? The idea at the time is that these people do not have the societal framework that we do today, all those complications, sexual mores, rules in society, taboos, everything, all of it. But they don't have it. They have an innocence about them, an innocence in their sexuality, an innocent energy about them. After all, they're not drained by trying to fit into society. And so he's trying to capture that. The colors give it that primitive feel, as if a young child who has yet to learn the ways of the world has created it. And he's doing that intentionally. He wants to draw that out of the viewer, or those memories out of the viewer, as much as he's trying to draw them out of himself. So here, color delineates space, not local color. Hue, again, indicates light and shadow. Very similar to a kindergartner drawing their house, where they're going to draw things that aren't really there, smiley faces in the sun, or a chimney with smoke, when almost no one has a chimney that blows smoke anymore, but we still draw it. So what Derain is getting at is this primitive element of man, and there's a lot of symbolism here that you could draw into. For example, the snake could be Christianity, it could be sort of Christian morals and dogma, so it could refer to that idea of the forbidden fruit and the snake's role in that. The fact that these women are in different colors, etc., could give us a sense that some are more primitive than others, maybe because of missionaries in the area, maybe because of other cultural influences such as trade that are going on at the time. The very colorful gown on this woman gives us again that sense of the primitive. After all, no one in Paris would wear something like that, but if you're an innocent person on a South Pacific island, you might. And you'll notice that these are all female forms. That could be symbolic, although it's hard to read into these sometimes because he's expressing his own sense of the scene. The gold background probably refers to the spiritual, the divine. And what he's doing is seeing the divine in the primitive. He's seeing God and God's creation in this more natural form of woman. Obviously, more natural form of man would be another way of putting it, but here we see women. So there's a lot going on here. And there are times, such as the blue grass, where he may be using that primarily to offset the skin tones or offset other colors. So it can become a very complicated piece, but it's a sort of thing that the viewer has to assign meaning to.